Victor Shirley Phillips, Nicholas McNabb,
All rise. Circuit Court is back in session.
Thank you. Please be seated. Good afternoon.
Oh, wow. We don't have anyone from the state.
I'll fill in.
I said we lost the state here.
City phone.
Dismissed.
Is J. David McCotter present? J. McCotter? Mr. McCotter?
Your Honor, if I'm not mistaken, that one was like a fugitive from justice. And so, from what I understand, the idea is that they get arrested on an out-of-state warrant, they wait for the state that's sending the warrant to come and get them, and then once they're gone, we dismiss the fugitive from justice charge. So I was, shouldn't they be incarcerated technically, or shouldn't they be in DOC?
They would be if they were still there. So
So is he been transferred?
So the assumption would be he would have gone back to where that warrant was.
Okay, so if he's not here, then I would say, I think it's safe to assume that he has been transported back to wherever the warrant was, so at this time the state would announce the dismissal of that case.
Okay. 23 CF 522 is dismissed. Roderick Noland, 23 CF 604. Oh, Mr. Noland. Does the state have an offer for Mr. Noland?
Yes, Your Honor, this is going to be a guidelines offer. The guidelines at this time are 31.275 months in DSC. That would be what the state is requesting at this time.
Mr. Nolan, do you wish for me to appoint a public defender if you qualify financially?
Yes.
Okay. How much money do you make per month?
No.
How long have you been unemployed?
For a long time.
How long is a long time?
A long time.
Okay. Years?
Years.
Okay. I do appoint the public defender to represent you. Mr. Kleins is approaching on their left.
Your Honor, we do have received a 2-count information. We will waive the formal reading into a not guilty plea. This is set on the May 8th docket, Your Honor, but if this is a 31.2-month guidelines offer, I don't expect this is going to be resolved on May 8th. You occasionally have to continue this to July. We would ask the court to grant a one-cycle continuance so that we can try to be as prepared as we can on July 10th.
Okay. So, Mr. Nolan, I'll see you back here on July 10th at 9 o'clock. Stay in touch with Mr. Kleins, okay? Thank you, sir. Gage Logan Noss, N-O-S-S. Gage Noss. I don't see Mr. Noss. Cody Owens. No Cody Owens yet. Rakeem Phillips. Rakeem Charm Phillips. 23 CF 486. You're Mr. Phillips?
Yes, sir.
Does the state have an offer for Mr. Phillips?
Yes, Your Honor, I think I think at this time, what I need to do is get the contact information of Mr. Phipps because the state is going to be offering a PTI agreement. And so I would need to be in contact with Mr. Phipps to see if he would agree to that. Essentially, I mean, I can't see him not, but if I can explain it to Mr. Phipps. Mr. Phipps, what a pretrial intervention agreement essentially means is that there's going to be certain things that we want to see done. It might be community service hours, pay court costs, and things of that nature. Once you do that, we would allow you to, or we would essentially dismiss the case so it doesn't actually go on your record. If that's something you're interested in, then what I would request this court to do is maybe set it for May the 11th with the idea in mind that we would get Mr. Phipps the PTI agreement and it would fall off the docket before that date. I would just need Mr. Phipps' contact information before he leaves.
Okay, why don't we just set it for July 10th, the next pretrial? And Mr. Phipps, I'm sorry I called you Phillips before.
No, it's all good.
You were looking like, wait a minute, is that me? When I said your middle name, I think you said, okay, that's me. Mr. Phipps, so I'm going to continue it until July 10th at 9 o'clock. Or at least set it then for a pretrial. You're charged with possession of marijuana greater than 20 grams. That's why you're here. So I do enter in denial for you, and so yes, sir.
You can write email. So number right here. Is that just your name?
Yes, bro, that's my name.
Cool. Awesome. I would just be expecting an email or a phone call from me.
Mr. Phipps, so if you're accepted into pretrial intervention, then you don't have to be here on July 10th at 9. But if you're not accepted into that, then you need to be here then. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Kareem Singleton, 23 CF 610. Hello, Mr. Singleton.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Does the state have an offer for Mr. Singleton?
No, Judge, not today.
Okay.
I'm still waiting on that one more piece of information.
Mr. Singleton, do you wish for me to appoint the public? Okay, good. I just got your financial. Mr. Singleton, I do appoint the public defender to represent you.
Okay.
Mr. McKinney is on your right.
Jason McLean, on behalf of Kareem Singleton Jr., we acknowledge the receipt of a one-count information waive its formal reading in 23 CF 610. Enter a plea of not guilty. This is scheduled for May 8th. I'd like to keep it on that court date.
Okay. Mr. Singleton, I'll see you back here May 8th at 9 o'clock. Stay in touch with Mr. McKinney.
Okay, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McKinney or Mr. Climes, are you all ready?
You got it first. I have in the gallery, Brent Lucas.
Good afternoon.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Your Honor, this is Mr. Lukaszewski in 23 CF 510. There is a one-count information. We will waive the formal reading, enter a not guilty plea. This is on the May 8th docket. We'd ask to leave it set on that docket.
Okay. I'll see you back here on May 8th at 9 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Nicholas McNabb, Your Honor, I believe that Mr. McNabb is in federal custody. I'll leave it to the court how the court wants to proceed.
What does the state seek?
We request a KPS, Your Honor.
KPS will be issued for Mr. McNabb. And the first appearance judge will determine the bond.
Gregory Nelson? Your Honor, this is Mr. Nelson. We do have a one-count information. We will waive the formal reading into a not guilty plea. Ask that this remains set on the May 8th docket. I don't know if I'm going to file a motion to continue given the nature of the charge, but I'd like to leave it on for now.
Okay. Mr. Nelson, I'll see you back here May 8th at 9 o'clock. Thank you, sir.
That's for you. That's for you. All right, good luck. I'll talk to you. Next I have Monty Patton. Mr. Patton is approaching the podium. There is a 3-count information. We will waive the formal reading, enter a not guilty plea. Ask that this remain on the May 8th docket.
Okay. Mr. Patton, I'll see you back here on May 8th at 9 o'clock. Stay in touch with Mr. Klein. Thank you, sir.
Shirley Phillips. Shirley Phillips.
Shirley Elaine Phillips, 23 CF 602. I don't see Miss Phillips. What does the state seek?
They request a KPS, Your Honor.
This was noticed for 1:30. It's 1:43. The KPS will be issued for Miss Phillips. All of these will be first appearance, Judge.
Those are my comments, Your Honor.
Thanks, Mr. Klein.
Judge, the first I have is Sean Riley. Sean Riley.
Sean Michael Riley, 23 CF 541. It was noticed for 4:30. It's 4:30. No, for 1:30 and it's 1:43. A KPS will be issued for Mr. Riley. That means that they'll put Mr. Riley in jail and bring him before the court. So we appreciate y'all being here.
Next I have is Eddie Rivera. Eddie Rivera.
No, he didn't interpret.
Okay. Mr. McKinney, have you asked for an interpreter?
I didn't know I needed one, Judge.
Okay.
Do you have an interpreter?
May I have a moment, Judge?
Yes, sir.
Judge, may we just enter a plea of not guilty on,
Yes.
on behalf of Mr. Rivera Torres in 23 CF 616. We do have a 4-count information. We'll waive its formal reading and enter the plea of not guilty. I just explained that his next court date is on May 8th at 9 a.m.
Okay. Mr. Rivera, I'll see you on May 8th at 9 o'clock. You're going to provide that in writing?
Yes, Judge. It is provided in writing right here, and I'm giving him one of my cards. Lyle Rowland. Mr. Rowland is here in 22 CF 604. This is a 1-count information. We'll waive its formal reading and our plea of not guilty. Madam Clerk, I don't see what the next court date is on this paperwork. Is it May 8th?
Yes.
I'm writing that on the paperwork.
Good.
And we'd like to keep it on that court date.
Mr. Rowland, I'll see you back here on May 8th at 9 o'clock. If the state offers you something that you want to accept before that date, you can avoid about 300 people and enter a plea before then. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Here's my contact information. If you can see me, okay? Judge, there's a Hassan Sean Sasser Williamson on the docket in 23 CF 381 and 23 CF 411. Written plea of not guilty over lunch. I saw that he has just been booked into the Walton County Sheriff's Office and going to the Walton County Jail related to a VOP because of this charge.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if that paperwork caught up, so I wanted to make sure that there was a plea of not guilty entered.
Okay. And then set for May 8th?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Jaheim Stanley. Mr. Stanley is present.
Hello, Mr. Stanley. Good, how are you?
Judge, we would acknowledge the receipt of a 2-count information. Waive its formal reading. This is just something I've discussed with Mr. Stanley. The state has made an offer to Mr. Stanley, which would be a plea as charged. Count 1 would be a withhold of adjudication and court costs, which would be $615 and a $150 public defender fee. Count 2 would be an adjudication and time served. It is a misdemeanor. In speaking with Mr. Stanley, he's indicated that he wishes to accept the state's offer and enter a plea of no contest as charged.
Mr. Stanley, if you'll raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You can put your hand down. Mr. Stanley, so did you understand what Mr. McKinney just stated today on the record?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you wish to do?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that if I accept your plea, that you're waiving your right to a trial by jury?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions for me or your attorney or the state?
No, sir.
Mr. Stanley, I do accept your plea. Adjudication is withheld in count 1. You're adjudicated guilty in count 2. All monetary assessments mandated by statute or county ordinance are imposed. That's the court cost. You'll need to pay the $150 public defender's fee. Sentenced to credit for time served. How long will you need to pay those amounts, Mr. Stanley?
Judge, we'd ask for 180 days.
Okay. Mr. Stanley, if you fail to pay those within 180 days from today, then they'll go to a civil lien or charge. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Check out on the first floor of the courthouse. Probably have this paperwork, please. I'm going to begin next week to get our court. That's it. I'll give you a copy of this for your records, sir. But you do not need to do that on any additional footsteps. Nathan Swan.
Oh, Mr. Swan.
You understand Nathan Swan? We would acknowledge the receipt of a 3-count information, waive its formal reading, and enter a plea of not guilty. This is scheduled for May 8th. At this time, I'd like to leave it on the May 8th court date.
Okay. Mr. Swan, I'll see you back here May 8th at 9 o'clock. Stay in touch with Mr. McKinney. Is that your mom back there?
Yes.
Good, I'm glad you came. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. You remember me? Madeline Martin?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Martin.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for coming with your son.
Yeah, I'll be back the next time too.
Excellent. Thank you, ma'am.
Sullivan Tilla Perez. Sullivan Tilla Perez. Do you speak English? You do? Okay. Judge, we would acknowledge the receipt of a 2-count information, waive its formal reading, enter a plea of not guilty. This is currently scheduled for May 8th at 9 a.m. We'd like to keep it on that court date. I am providing my contact information at this time.
Mr. Tello Perez, I'll see you back here May 8th at 9 o'clock. Stay in touch with Mr. McKinney, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, you too.
Make an appointment sooner rather than later. Justin Watson.
Hello, Mr. Watson. Good, how are you?
Judge, Mr. Watson is here in 23 CF 617. We would acknowledge the receipt of a one-count information, waive its formal reading, enter a plea of not guilty. This is currently scheduled for May 8th. And if I might have just a moment to look and see one thing. May I have a moment?
Yes, sir.
Judge, let's keep it on May 8th. We're going to try to resolve this matter outside that court date, but let's keep it there for tracking purposes.
Okay. Mr. Watson, I'll see you back here May 8th at 9 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Andrew West, we filed a written plea of not guilty. Jason Willis.
Hello, Mr. Willis.
Mr. Willis is here in 23 CF 502. Willis. Judge, I do see that we have a one-count information in this case. We'll waive its formal reading and enter a plea of not guilty. This is scheduled for May 8th, and I'd like to keep it on that court date.
Okay. Mr. Willis, I'll see you on May 8th at 9 o'clock. Stay in touch with Mr. McKinney. Okay? Thank you, sir.
No, it's Willis. Jason Willis, that's okay.
Yes.
Judge, if I can approach with a score sheet from Mr. Stanley.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Mr. LaPella, are you here for the 2:30s, or do you have?
I just have a proposed order on the one from this morning.
Okay, yes, sir.
I emailed it to everyone, but I've had experiences where it's been an
Good.
issue.
Thank you.
I believe the state has a copy in the email. I'm not sure if there's an objection.
I've just had a little bit of time to look at it, Judge. I don't think there's an objection, but I was going to respond by email.
$5,000 signature bond. This is in Sullivan, 22 CF 59. Pretrial services, GPS. Before he leaves the jail, complete psychological evaluation. You want me to put a time period in there?
I would think at least with the anti-theft course, Judge, and the psychological evaluation.
It's got complete psychological evaluation. So how long to complete the psychological evaluation? I think, did I say
would say-
7 days?
I'm sorry.
I was thinking something shorter. But, Mr. LaPella, you think it'll take 30 days to do that?
If she has to do it privately, it could take a little longer. If she can do it through pretrial, then it'd be done very quickly, I imagine, if it's allowed.
How about if I say within 15 days?
That's fine, as long as if she's able to get it done through pretrial services, which I assume she could, then I think she could get it done within a week.
Okay. Register and complete anti-theft course?
Judge, I'd ask for the registration to be done within a week and completion within 30 days.
No objection.
Okay. No trespassing at any retail business establishment. House arrest sanctions. However, defendant shall be allowed to travel from her home to familial residences, her mother, father, and children's grandfather, grandmother, and her children's school. And then the last one is report pretrial services upon release from jail.
And she can, I would, we could put in there that, that she submit those, the addresses of those familial residences to pretrial.
We just have a new order submitted that includes those addresses and these additions of the time periods.
Just handwriting those in and just saying that she has to do that, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
So then she can't leave until she provides them with those addresses.
How is she might, well, how is she gonna?
But if it's in the,
She's in the
they're going to
jail.
release her before those would be provided.
She'll have to submit them
If-
to pretrial services, because she'll have to go to pretrial services once she's released.
Right.
I just don't know how she's gonna get the addresses to pretrial services while she's in the jail.
Mr. Lupella can reach out to her
Submit addresses to pretrial after release. How's that?
within 24 hours.
Well, she can't leave until she gives them.
No, within 24 hours of her release.
She can't leave her home until she, and goes to any of those addresses without providing them to pretrial.
Oh,
So I don't think-
before she leaves the home versus leaving the jail.
Right.
Oh, okay, that
Before
makes
she
sense.
can leave home, she has to provide those other addresses. So until she provides those addresses to pretrial, she's under house arrest.
As long as the order specifies leave home as opposed to leave, because it could be interpreted as leave jail.
And it doesn't say, it just says house arrest sanctions. However, she may be allowed to travel to those other places, submit addresses to pretrial after release.
Very good.
A report to pretrial services upon release from jail. Immediately upon release from jail. Okay. Okay, so I'm giving that to her. Can you make a copy of that? I think probably Mr. O'Connell wants it. No, you don't?
I'm good, as long as it gets to the jail.
Good.
Thank you, Judge.
You'll get it to the jail or how about that?
I wrote most of these on the minute sheet. Have that.
I'll get a copy. Just to have it.
But I believe the orders would be also forwarded to the jail.
I'll record it, just goes in the case details.
Okay. The only reason I ask is, yeah, I've had issues with the jail before where if there's any ambiguity whatsoever in the minutes, they interpret that against the defendant. And it the default would be just hold them in the jail until they get clarification.
Before we see the inmates, we have one out of custody. We'll just show, okay?
Okay, yes, you do have.
Step forward, please. Can you say your name to the court?
Cody Rochelle Owens.
So is it for the election?
You're good, keep going. I'm just walking.
Thank you. Ms. Owens' case is 23 CF 524. Does the state have an offer for Ms. Owens?
Adjudicate credit for time served, 615 in court costs, and any public defender fee if it was applicable.
Ms. Owens, have you ever been adjudicated guilty of a felony before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what the state's offering you is credit for time served, and you just pay the court costs. And I would ask you how long you would want to pay those court costs before it goes to a civil lien. If you accepted the state's offer, you'd be waiving your right to an attorney and waiving your right to a jury trial. If you want to do that, you can do that. If you want me to appoint a public defender and you qualify financially, I can do that also. Public defender's fee is $150.
No, it sounds pretty fair to me. So I just pay the court costs in a certain amount of time? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
If you'll raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. You can put your hand down. So you understand that if I accept your plea, that you're waiving your right to an attorney and a trial by jury, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have any questions for me or for the state?
No, sir.
And you have been adjudicated guilty of a felony in the past?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the reason why I ask that, Ms. Owens, is I want to make sure that you understand your downside.
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Ms. Owens, I do accept your plea. You're adjudicated guilty. You're sentenced to credit for time served. All monetary assessments mandated by statute or county ordinance are imposed. That's the court cost. Is it $615? How long do you think it'll take you to pay $615?
See, that's what, that's gonna be like a little,
You want
let's put it this way,
$600?
I'm having like a really bad pregnancy.
Yes, ma'am.
So like, I can't hold a job right now because I can't even hold anything down really.
So how about a year?
So, yes, that would do.
So if you fail to pay it within 1 year, then it will go to a civil lien or judgment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Owens, right over here.
Judge, if I can approach with a score sheet.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The only thing the court can ex parte a party about is scheduling, and that's what I was asking about Ms. Davis was scheduling. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, this is Ladarius McNabb in 23 CF 603. I believe Mr. Gomez has an announcement.
Your Honor, based on a drug charge request as well as me speaking in person with the victim who is present today in court, we are going to be announcing the dismissal of this case.
Mr. McNabb, your case is dismissed. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. What's your name?
Manuel Romero.
I'm sorry, your last name is what?
Romero.
Romero. Thank you, Ms. Romero.
Looks like Mr. Stevens represents Ms. Romero.
Right. Ms. Romero, have you had any communications with David Stevens, with the attorney?
No.
Mr. Romero has a second case. This one was transferred down from our division in Crestview. So to run with the case that she currently has pending with this court. So that may be where the communication is.
And when is Ms. Romero, is the
She's
time
scheduled for
this
the
one?
May 8th docket for her other case. I'll send Mr. Stevens a message and let him know that this case has no not guilty plea entered.
Yes, ma'am. So, Ms. Romero, I'm going to enter a not guilty plea for you. Set your case for May 8th at 9 o'clock. This is the charge of health, safety, prevention, obstruction of a firefighter.
Oh, firefighter.
The allegations were tampering with a fire extinguisher.
Okay. Okay. And so that's the information, that's the charging document from the state that charges that. Mr. Stevens represents you on this case also, so he'll get with you on both of your cases. And I'll see you back here no later than May 8th, okay?
Hi, Ms. Romero.
Thank you, ma'am.
We have it now. So all that's left is the two thirds.
Okay.
Elijah White and Kirk Lousy.
Your Honor, if we could also just recall, because we didn't actually address this. We called him, and I think we kind of gave him some time to gauge
Madam
us.
Clerk, on the 130,
Gage Noss.
Gage Knox.
Oh,
23
State
CF.
requested KPS, Your Honor.
23 CF 595. Mr. Noss isn't present. It's 2:06. It was noticed for 1:30. KPS will be issued for Mr. Noss. And the first appearance judge will determine the bond. Anything else we can do now until 2:30?
If the court wants to take Mr. Losey, it's a Nelson hearing.
We have them
Good.
upstairs.
Yes, sir. Why don't we do that?
We'll take Rosie. Mr. Logan.
Hello, Mr. Losey.
Your Honor.
Mr. Losey, so tell me what's the difference between your amended motion for Nelson hearing and the last motion for Nelson hearing?
The last motion for the Nelson hearing, Your Honor, was filed on February 23rd. The hearing was on February 23rd. And since then, I've still not seen Mr. Klein's. Numerous letters. I've not heard anything from him. He comes to the
Let me put you under oath.
Okay.
You raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You can put your hand down. So everything that you just stated before I swore you in, is that true?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please, what else do you want me to know?
Well, Your Honor, I just feel like to participate in my defense, to understand what's happening with my defense, and to understand the proceedings that surround my defense, I think that it would be prudent to actually speak to the one that's appointed to my defense at some point, and it's just not happening. From the last time I was here on February 23rd, I've sent several notices, several letters. I've tried to contact Mr. Klein's. He's at the jail 2 or 3 times a week. I don't see him, and I've actually went to the Florida bar. And if the court disagrees that ignoring your client for almost a year is not ineffective, I would ask, and the court decides they don't want to appoint a replacement, I'd like to ask to invoke my right to self-representation.
Okay, you'd like to invoke your right to...
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Kleins, if you'll raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Losey filed this Nelson hearing request the day after his last Nelson hearing request was denied. So when I see a Nelson hearing, I do not go contact the individual. So that's the reason why I have not talked with him, because, and I did respond to the Florida bar last week, or maybe earlier this week. They sent me a letter saying, hey, please write your client. I sent the bar a letter saying there's a pending Nelson hearing. And I do not contact clients or do anything on cases while there's pending hearings. If he stops asking for Nelson hearings, I would be more happy to go see him. It's the timing of this particular Nelson hearing was the day after the last one was denied. I didn't even have a chance to do anything.
And, okay. And Mr. Losey, that was, I asked you what happened between the time you filed the last one and the time you filed this one. You told me what happened through today, but did anything happen from the time of the last hearing on February 23rd and the time that you filed? Well, it says March 30th. It was received by the clerk. So, Mr. Kleins, that doesn't seem to be accurate.
There's actually 2 Nelson hearing requests, Your Honor. By my approach.
If you'll hold on one second, I probably have it. I've got one that is February 3rd. I've got one that is March. I've got March 21st. He withdrew the one in December. Okay, is there one other than that? March 21st? March 30th?
May I approach?
February 3rd?
February 24th.
Okay, I don't
And
have
the
that.
one from February 24th, I wasn't aware that I was going to have a hearing on the 23rd, so I filed another one, and that one happened to land on the 24th. And then 2 months later, after still not hearing from Mr. Klein's, I filed another Nelson hearing.
Okay. Do you understand now why he hasn't communicated with you? is because of that pending Nelson hearing motion?
I mean, I don't understand why he hasn't communicated with me, no.
Well, you're asking for him to be relieved for ineffective assistance. He's in a catch-22. I mean, he can't, it's difficult for him to try to represent you when you're saying that he's not doing a good job. And I think it's probably his office's policy not to do anything once that motion's filed. And I'm sorry that I didn't bring that up to you when we were here before, but I didn't know you were going to file another one immediately.
Yes, sir. I mean, after 9 months, I'll be honest with you, sir, we've gone nowhere. And I would, if it's possible, if the court disagrees and does not want to appoint replacement counsel, I would like to just go ahead and, if we can do a Feretta hearing and I could represent myself.
Okay. You certainly have that right. We can go through those questions in a moment. But hearing what Mr. Klein's just stated, you want to give him a shot? Do you want to, we set it for May 8th that I'll see you again? You don't have any, I deny this because it was filed the day after the other hearing. Well, this one was filed March 30th, but you filed the other one, and that was why Mr. Klein's didn't see you. I would end up denying the motion for Nelson hearing. But again, if you want to represent yourself, I can go through that too. But, you know, any attorney would tell you it's better to have an attorney than it is not to have one. If you want to give Mr. Klein's a shot and see what he does within some period of time, and then if you want to do a Feretta at any time after that, then you can do that. But if you want to represent yourself, I got some questions to ask you.
I would rather go ahead and just represent myself, sir.
Okay. Do you understand that you have a right to an attorney?
Yes, sir.
If you cannot afford to hire an attorney, then one will be appointed for you. The state of Florida will pay for a lawyer to represent you in these proceedings. Do you want to continue to have the public defender to represent you?
I would, sir.
Okay, so you want them to continue to represent you?
I would like the court to reappoint.
I can't tell the public defender's office who to appoint to represent for you. The separation of powers prevents me from doing that.
Yes, sir.
So all I can say is public defender will continue to represent you, and as far as I know, your name falls within Mr. Klein's assignments. So do you want him to continue to represent you?
I'll give Mr. Klein's until May 8th. Before May 8th, I think, is the next pretrial conference that I have scheduled. And I'll give Mr. Klein's until that time to come up and visit with me in the jail and see where we're at. And for whatever reason I'm not satisfied, then I'll just do a Feretta.
Okay. Yes, sir. You can just file a motion for Feretta.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'll see you on the 8th.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, sir. So the amended motion is denied.
I don't know what I was going to do that.
Okay. Anything else you want to do before 2:30?
That's all I have on the docket.
Mr. Klein? Yes, sir. Okay, we're in recess until 2:30.
All rise. Court's in recess.